Fit to Love, Season 2, Episode 15, What Losing My Parents to Cancer Taught Me. Today's show was brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at fit2lovebook.com.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas from EO Fire. Get ready to get physically, emotionally, and spiritually fit with LA's best personal trainer and empowerment strategist, JJ Flazanes.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Flazanes.
Hello and welcome to Fit to Love Wellness Wednesdays. Today's show, What Losing My Parents to Cancer Taught Me. We have with us Allison Melody. She is the director of the documentary Food Heals and is the host of the Food Heals podcast. She is a dog-loving entrepreneur with a passion for film, fitness, and food. As a true lover of life and all things, she is dedicated to producing projects and programs that support community building, social causes, and a holistic approach to health and healing. Allison holds a master's degree in spiritual psychology and is the founder of Holistic Voice. Her credentials are evident of her personal calling to find and share new methodologies for health and healing. At the age of 26, Allison endured the devastating loss of both of her parents after their long and challenging battles with cancer. Having witnessed both of her parents' intense and needless suffering, Allison knew she had to dedicate her life toward finding a better way of healing. The tragedy instilled in her an unwavering passion for nutritional medicine and propelled her into the world of holistic health and alternative healing. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Thank you, JJ. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's a solemn topic to start with, obviously, because I can't even imagine. I mean, I could cry thinking about it for myself. So I can't even imagine the pain and suffering you've endured and, watching. And so before I well up in tears, let's talk a little bit about some of the details if you're okay with that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm at the point where I can share the story without breaking out into tears, and I can even share it with laughter. So I've done plenty of work on this issue. And so I'm happy to share it because I want people to know my story. I want to continue my parents' legacy and help people heal based on the experiences that I've had. This story could help others. So I'm happy to share.
How long ago did your parents pass?
My father, I believe, was about 7 years. My mom was 2004. So 11 years now, which is crazy to me because I can, snap my fingers like it's yesterday and be back there.
And what kinds of cancers did they have?
My mother's cancer was carcinoma of unknown origin. And what that meant to me at the time was basically they couldn't find the cause. So they would give her a colonoscopy and realize, oh, it's not in the colon. That's not where it originated. And it had just completely taken over her body. So they never knew the origin, which means they didn't have an exact treatment for it.
And your dad?
My dad had liver cancer. And so, that's pretty self-explanatory. He was a drinker and a smoker. I'm not saying that's exactly what caused it, but it didn't help.
And prior to their diagnosis, each of them, and their health declining, were you on the path of holistic health?
Nope.
What were you doing? What were you doing with your life?
I was just living it up, eating fast food. I had no awareness that what I put into my body matters. The only thing I knew was like, oh, you have to exercise so that you can be skinny in a bathing suit, right? That is the extent of my knowledge at this time. And I'm talking about myself until my teenage years, until I was about 20. So 20-something years old, that's when I really started to discover it. Unfortunately, I didn't learn anything until after my mother passed away. But in my 20s is really when I started to embrace this holistic lifestyle and realize, oh my goodness, food matters, food heals, and it's the number one thing. Mind, body, and spirit, it's all connected, but you got to start with the food.
And prior to this experience, what were you planning on doing as a career? Because obviously now you're the director of a documentary called Food Heals, and you're the host of the Food Heals podcast, and founder of the Holistic Voice. So was that the path before this?
Originally, I thought I wanted to be in front of the camera, and then I went to film school and realized, no, I want to be behind the camera. I love directing. I love producing. I love editing. I love writing. I love creating a story. And so originally, I wanted to do narrative film, narrative stories. And now I'm obsessed with documentaries, and that's all I do. And that's all I do for my clients and for my own personal projects.
So tell us who are listening to you, obviously it's been, like you said, 7 years for your dad, 11 years for your mom. You've told the story, you've done this work. And so what was your first, like, how did you grieve? How did you deal with, how did you process what was going on? Were you on the sidelines, sort of watching and just sort of supporting? Were you getting in there and trying to be the rescuer and have them try different things or research things? Was it after the fact that then you sort of asked the question of, well, what could have been done that we didn't get to try?
Yeah, so with my mom, I was definitely clueless. And with my dad, I was definitely like, you're going to drink a green juice every day and you're going to heal yourself and you're going to stop smoking, drinking, and eating bad food, right? So I'll start with my mom. Originally, she had multiple sclerosis. So I grew up with her having that. And what that is an autoimmune condition where the immune system is attacking itself. So for her, and I know everyone has different symptoms, but for her, it was in the hands and feet, where she would have tingling and pain in her hands and feet. And as I got older, it just got worse. So by the time I was a senior in high school, she was getting more and more debilitated, taking more and more painkillers and pharmaceutical drugs, and then was really catapulted to the next level when I was in college, where she got to the point where first she had to walk with a cane, and then she had a motorized scooter type of wheelchair. And, I have so much shame around this, but I would be embarrassed. Like, Mom, why can't you walk? Why can't you do these things? And I think the shame was really about the sadness and the frustration that I wasn't dealing with because no one could help her. And the doctors didn't have any answer except for more drugs. And it got to the point where her whole day was spent sitting in a chair taking pills. So she had a box of pills and each one had a new side effect. So then there was another pill for that side effect and, so that she wouldn't feel awful all day. But that was her life. And I didn't realize how toxic that life was at the time. The doctors didn't have any answers. There was nothing about nutrition. There was nothing about alternative healing methods such as acupuncture and, things like that. None of that was in our awareness. No one was talking about those things. So when the cancer diagnosis came along, I was absolutely devastated because it was like, how could it get any worse? She's already so debilitated and so miserable. And, she stayed strong for me and tried to pretend she was happy, but I know she was very, very sad and very frustrated that she couldn't work anymore. She couldn't do what she was passionate about. She couldn't play guitar anymore. She used to be a party host. She couldn't host the parties anymore. And so we got the cancer diagnosis, and that was very frustrating too. But looking back, I can now clearly say that, taking all of those drugs and not eating a healthy diet absolutely contributed to the cancer diagnosis. And I'm not a doctor, but I can say that with complete confidence and clarity that those things affect your body and they make you toxic. And all the pain and suffering she was going through and then getting the cancer diagnosis, it was just so much at once. And so emotionally, I wasn't really dealing with it. It was kind of like my secret life at home. And I wasn't telling my friends about it very much. I'm sure I mentioned it, but it was very like, this is just a family thing we're going to go through. I remember going to all the doctor's appointments. She got chemotherapy, radiation. She got some sort of experimental surgery, and nothing worked. It just made her more miserable to the point where she would be throwing up on the bathroom floor. She lost all of her hair. And this was a woman who had like the long hippie hair that she kept from the 70s because she was that hippie type of person who played guitar on the steps of her college. And watching her lose her hair, I think, was the hardest part. Just that visual of going through that was really, really tough for me. And it lasted, I would say, about a year and a half to 2 years. And she passed away 1 month before my college graduation. That's the hardest time in my life at that time.
Absolutely. I mean, you're about to step into a whole new chapter of your life and preparing for that. And then on top of that, you've got grieving and the fear probably that set in, and then the sadness and probably the anger of all of that too, I'm sure.
And it's funny because I didn't feel those feelings at first. I definitely felt sadness, but I didn't let myself cry. I didn't let out my emotions. I didn't show my emotions to many people. I was very private. I held it all in. I held it all down. I know now that that was unhealthy, and I've done a lot of work on healing that and experiencing those emotions. But to go back to answering your question, a few years later, my father got sick, and things had gotten better for us for a while. My dad had met a wonderful woman who I still adore to this day, Dorothy, who became my stepmother, and they got married. And things were looking up for my family. Like, even though I had lost my mom, I had I had felt like life was going to be okay because I had my dad and I had graduated college. I had to move to Los Angeles and was starting to pursue my film career. I was working on sets, I was getting clients, I was having a blast. So I felt that that chapter kind of closed and that life was going to be okay. And then to get slapped in the face with the new cancer diagnosis of my father, it's just everything, my whole world came crashing down. And I remember getting the call. I had moved from North Carolina to Los Angeles and I got the call and, he just said, "I'm sick, baby. It's bad. Come home." And I was like, "Is it cancer?" And he said, "It's cancer." And I knew it. I somehow, when he called me, I knew what he was going to say. It was like the psychic moment because I was starting to become awakened and realize that all these unhealthy habits can contribute to disease. And so I had started to say, like, quietly, like, "Dad, maybe you should not smoke so much. Maybe you should not drink so much." And he's kind of like, "Okay, honey, whatever you say, little girl," like, not really listening. And so one thing I didn't mention is that when I was in Los Angeles, I had started to meet people. And this was all like, meant to be or whatever, because they would tell me, like, I took a woman's pregnancy photos and she was like, "I had cancer and I healed myself by doing a juice cleanse." And I was like, "That's crazy. Tell me more." And so I started meeting all these people who had healed their bodies. And the common theme was a really holistic approach to health. So instead of doing all these drastic measures such as surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, and popping a bunch of pills, they were doing things like a juice fast or changing their diet so dramatically to only eating plants and greens. And that was so powerful that the body was able to repair itself. And so that really got me kind of into this world of holistic health and looking at the body as a whole rather than, cut it out. If you cut something out, that's great. You cut out the cancer if it's only in one place. But whatever caused the cancer is still there. So you got to work on the cause. You have to work on the whole body. So I went home, see my dad with a mission. I was going to cure him. So I teamed up with my stepmom, Dorothy, and we would make him liver cleansing juices with garlic and greens, and they tasted absolutely disgusting. And we would force it down his throat. And, it was comical. He would pretend he was asleep so that he wouldn't have to drink the latest green concoction that we had come up with. And we were reading all these books and we were obsessed, lack of a better word, we were obsessed with greens and juicing. And so everyone that would come over would be served, some green concoction. And I still juice, I'm making fun of myself because we were really obsessed back then, but I still do it to this day. So yes, I did try to change him. I tried very, very hard. We found a doctor in North Carolina, and there's very few of these holistic health practitioners, but we found someone. And he said, my dad had stage 4 liver, so things did not look good. All the doctors said there's nothing we can do except give him radiation and chemo to keep him alive a little bit longer, but there's really nothing we can do. So we did do that. But we found this holistic doctor, and he said, Lee, my father's name is Lee, Lee, I have had cases as severe as yours, and doing this program, that he has a program, they have come back from it. He's never said, "I will cure you," so I don't want to misspeak, but he did say, "We have had patients with stage 4 liver, lung, you name it, and they have come back from it." And so that got me on a mission to cure him. And so this was a kind of diet where all you do is juicing and herbs and it's really intense. So just as aggressive as chemotherapy and radiation are to the body, it's just as aggressive with the greens and the herbs. So we tried it for maybe a week or two before my dad sat me down and he said, "You know what? I appreciate what you're doing, but I don't believe in this. I don't believe it, and you have to let me die with dignity the way I want to die." And it was the most, one of the most difficult moments of my life to make the conscious decision, like, you have to let him do what he wants to do, and you have to respect him and his avatar and who he is as a person, and that the fact that he wanted to drink and smoke and enjoy his life till his deathbed. And so I had to be okay with that. And that was one of the hardest things I ever did, was let go of my, "I'm going to heal you."
Well, bravo to your father for being able to articulate that. There are so many people that act defiantly to their family, whether it be a spouse or a parent or a child, because that's what they want to say is, "Let me have the dignity of doing it my way," and not being concerned with pleasing you.
Yes.
But so many people can't articulate that. And so then it keeps this frustration going. And then the other person, like, that was a gift to you, right? To be able to have him say that to you so that you could understand and then take responsibility for your strong desires and recognize that while you have those and they're absolutely valid, that's not what he wants. And it's his life.
Yep.
And it's his choice.
Yes.
And there's a respect to that. It's like people that, it's controversial to talk about suicide, but I've had an ex-boyfriend commit suicide. And while I know how hard it was in this lifetime for him in the late years of his life, when he did it, yes, I was sad. But part of me knew that he chose this, and anyone that passes, people or animals usually come to me in dreams anyway. So I always know they're good and they're okay. And they're still here. They're just not in physical form.
Right.
They're now non-physical form. But at least at that point, it's like, well, it's your life and you get to decide when you want to go. I respect that. I can't. What do you want me to do? Say, no, you have to stay for everybody else? That's codependent.
Yeah.
And that's not right. That was really very advanced for your dad to be able to speak that clearly to you, and that you got that gift from him so that you didn't think, oh, what else could I have done differently? Because there are so many people who struggle on the emotional side with a parent, that whether they take their life or they just go because it's a health related incident or a disease or a chronic condition. And a lot of people feel responsible, and because nobody spoke up to say, this is my life and I get to make my choice and I get to be responsible for me, and you are not. But a lot of people have this, oh, I could have done more. It's my fault. If I only had done this, if I only had done that. And that kind of guilt can cause disease for the people who are left behind.
Absolutely. And, I have dealt with that, and I've done a lot of work on myself. So, I had to once he passed away, I had to deal with my grief. And so this grief was compounded because I didn't deal with with the grief that I should have dealt with from losing my mother. So it was compounded into this double. And, I went very, very dark, very depressed for a little bit. And luckily it didn't last long because I was able to pull myself out of it. But it's an ongoing battle. Learning how to let go of the guilt surrounding that, let go of the anger that you didn't try harder or you didn't do better, and all that kind of stuff. It's really hard, and it takes a lot of self-care and acknowledging and forgiveness and therapy.
Yeah. Well, I see that you have a master's degree in spiritual psychology. So did you get that because of these situations?
I have a master's degree in self-forgiveness. Yes, because that's why I pursued that. I never would have pursued this if I hadn't been through something so traumatic and so tragic, because I needed the tools to deal with my feelings and my hurt and my sadness and my anger. And, that school really gave that to me. And, it was a 2-year program, but I'm still doing it. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on this avatar and strengthening my own core and making myself happy day to day.
I think it's part of all of our expansion evolution anyway. It's either you're doing it and you're aware of it, or you're not doing it and you're suppressing it. Either way, your life, you're manifesting situations, and you've chosen, I believe, all these contracts in your lifetime to grow. And so if you don't believe in that, it's still going to happen, and you just may resist it, which that in itself will also cause disease and discord and chronic issues in your life, I think. So I agree with you 100%. And in terms of that, it's an everyday thing for everybody. And it's like exercise. I like to tell people, you don't just go to the gym for 1 week and think and do, change your diet for 1 week, and you're going to reverse the effects of 20 to 30 years. It's going to take a little bit longer. And the same thing with spiritual practices or emotional awareness and consciousness and mindfulness. This is stuff that you start to learn and start to practice. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. And the second nature it becomes. But it never just happens. It's not just like I'm a conscious, spiritual centered being who knows how to deal with my emotions and process everything perfectly fine all the time. No, that's not how it works.
Exactly. And I know everyone says this, but it's so true, including Aerosmith. But life is a journey, not a destination. It is what you're doing on a daily basis, what you're doing regularly, that shapes who you are and who you're going to be. And It's exactly like you just said. And I used to be the suppressor, and now I am the, you got to deal with this. And if you don't deal with it, then you're going to be miserable. And I prefer to be happy. I choose joy. I choose me, you know?
So I have to ask, what is your astrological
I'm a
sign?
Sagittarius.
I was going to say, oh, why don't I just guess? JJ, I'm like, you sound like a fire sign because you're positive and upbeat and look at what the bright side is. And I have Sag, I'm a Pisces, but I've got Sag all over the place.
Gotcha.
And that's a very Sag quality that you have. And I have to, and the reason why I want to bring this up and sort of tell people that are listening to this, because it is easier. It doesn't mean it's easy. Let me say that again. I'm not saying it's easy for anyone to go through what you've gone through, but for someone who has some Sag in them or some Leo in them or some Aries in them, that can be, fire can help. Fire is movement. Fire is movement forward. And so sometimes that can help. If you are someone who is a water sign, a Cancer, a Pisces, a Scorpio, you may feel like you're in the muck of the muck of the muck and can't get out. And for that person, they need extra help in being able to do things. So there are sort of the way that we come into this world and energies that we're good at, and when we're aware of things, and also Sagittarius are seekers of information and knowledge, right? So that passion to uncover the truth, so to speak, right? We're truth seekers. Sagittarians are truth seekers. And just to let everyone know that sometimes part of how you energetically show up in this life, and then of course your environment that you're raised in, sometimes can put you at an advantage or disadvantage for being able to tackle these kinds of things. So knowing how you deal with things is really important so that you can get the right kind of support and the right kind of help. So you have many lessons, and the show is way too short for this story, and I'm not regretting doing it, but this show will probably go just a little bit longer, everyone, so I'm sorry, because I don't want to cut off all the great things that we're talking about. But Allison, you have at least 3, and I know there's many more, but the top 3 life lessons that you got out of what you went through, and now as you are able to look at other people's lives, or in retrospect, the lessons that were so profound for you, I want you to share them with our listeners. But first, we do need to take a break and thank our sponsors. Do you love listening to audiobooks? Or do you think you'd read more if you could listen to them? Well, for you listeners, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. With over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. To download your free audiobook today, go to fit2lovebook.com. That's FIT2LOVE book.com to get your free audiobook with your free 30-day trial to Audible. If you're unhappy with your trial and you don't want to continue, you get to cancel before the 30 days are over and keep your free audiobook. It is 100% risk-free. So go to fit2lovebook.com. That's FIT2LOVEBOOK.com to get your free audiobook today. What does your self-care routine have to do with dating and relationships? Everything. How you treat yourself is the blueprint for how you show others how to treat you. I call this your body blueprint. Ready to change your body blueprint and manifest better quality relationships and physical results? I am giving away free copies of the second edition of Fit to Love, How to Get Physically, Emotionally, and Spiritually Fit to Attract the Love of Your Life. Visit fit2love.tv/ebook to download your copy today. That's FIT2LOVE.tv/ebook. Let's transform your body and your relationship. Okay, Allison, so what, if you had to narrow it down to the very top 3 most important lessons that you could impart on everyone listening right now, that if they do nothing else, if they just pay attention to these 3 things, life is good?
Absolutely. And like you said, there are plenty more than 3, but I'll try to narrow it down. The first one that was a huge lesson for me and can definitely help others is you gotta let go. So what does that mean? You have to let go of your attachment to the pain. So a lot of times we go through experiences and they become a part of us. And I would never take that away from anyone or even suggest that. But what you have to let go of is all the judgments that you've held for so long about yourself, about the situation, about other people involved, because that's toxic. And what do we know about being toxic or toxins? they keep us sick. They keep us down. So you hear a lot about the environmental toxins and the toxins in our food, but it's also, are you toxic within yourself? Are you living a toxic life? Are you having these toxic thoughts? And those are going to cause disease, and those are going to make you unhappy, and those are going to come out in every way, other ways. So it's about letting go of all the anger, all the pain, all the judgments. And when you feel that anger or you feel that pain, experience it, give it a voice, write it down, throw something. I mean, don't break anything, okay? But throw a pillow, beat out that anger, let out the energy. And that allows the healing energy to come in. So number one is let go.
I couldn't agree more. That's why I have a 6-day-a-week show, because this show could have gone on a Freedom Friday or even on a Thoughtful Thursday, because Thursday's about the psychology and the mindset and the strategy and the hypnotherapy part of this and our subconscious mind. And Freedom Friday is everything from spirituality. I mean, we've already mentioned astrology, and that goes on a Friday, but it really is that emotional piece. I love that you said that. There's a point in which the judgment that you put on everybody else around you is toxic. Some people are on one level, they're clean. They eat very, very cleanly. Everything is the best you can get. Yet on the emotional side, full of anger, resentment, judgment, fear. And I have told people in my belief of law of attraction, which one's better? I mean, it's better to not have any anger and let that all go too. But really, it's the person who's filled with all that rage. If you can eat a clean diet, but you're still going to create toxicity in your body.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Just like you said. And, if you want to go, my next tip will definitely be a Wellness Wednesday and go back to the food, because I think that is so important. I think I said at the beginning, like, food is number one, but my second tip is wellness is the number one priority at all times. So we've talked about letting go of the toxic emotions, but also, what are you putting in your body every day? How are you fueling your system? Because it's the old mantra is absolutely true. You are what you eat. And I think Michael Pollan said, you are what you eat eats. So are you eating animal products that are fed a corn GMO-laden diet, or are you eating plant food that is in its fullest, healthiest form? And that's going to fuel you to either way, feeling bad and feeling awful if you're eating bad food, or feeling wonderful and feeling energetic if you're eating, this plant-based diet. And so I definitely promote a more plant-based vegan diet, but I know it's not for everyone. And, I've gone super extreme into raw food. I've come super back. And so it's not about being extreme. It's about finding the balance of what works for you and eating more greens. So I do a juice every day. I do a smoothie every day. And sometimes I do 2 to 3 juices a day if I'm feeling super down, because I want that plant fuel. I want that energy. I want all those vegetables in my body because they have antioxidants, and antioxidants can get rid of cancer cells. And I don't want cancer. Both my parents had cancer, so I'm determined not to get it.
Okay. And number 3.
I believe that all pain, all diseases, all experiences, all suffering is a gift. And I know that's hard to hear, especially if you're going through something right now, or you just got diagnosed with something, or a loved one is going through something, or you're very angry with someone. It's really hard to hear that it's a gift. Why is it a gift? It's an opportunity to transform, to change what is not working, right? And you have to use all your experiences as a gift to the world. So you have to share your lessons and knowledge with others. If you don't do that, what is the point of the experience, right? How can you transform that experience into something positive, into something good? And I guarantee you one day you'll be able to look back at the experience and say, wow, that was the best thing that ever happened because it made me the person I am today, even if you wouldn't have had it happen that way. And then how are you using that pain or that anger or whatever as an artist? Because we're all artists in this world. I'm not talking about, you don't have to be a painter, but I actually have a really good quote that I love that I just heard on like a Oprah Super Soul Sunday or something online, but it's from Billy Bob Thornton. And he's an actor, director, and he's very talented. And he said, as an artist, that's where a lot of your stuff comes from. And he's talking about the pain. You keep honoring these people forever by singing that song or writing that movie or doing that part in a movie or writing a book or whatever it is, because that has a sadness or a melancholy or fear in it. And those are the things that keep them alive. So in the case of losing a loved one, how are you keeping them alive? And so for me, it's doing the film. I'm doing the film Food Heals in honor of my mom and my dad, and to help others realize that there are alternative methods to heal from cancer, and that diet is number one. It's so important.
So you're saving lives because you've lost some.
I love that sentiment. I can't claim to save lives, but yes, I would love to help people
And I know you wouldn't be saying that, and no one really wants to say like I've saved someone's life necessarily, but really, I mean, it's the fuel in the mission is so big, and it was propelled from the pain,
Yes.
but it's going to help so many people, and it already has helped people. I saw your trailer. It's
Thank
great.
you.
And so when it comes out, you're going to get the letters. You're going to get the people that say, thank you so much for this. It saved my life. You know it's going to happen. And it's only happening. It's not only happening, but it's happening because of what you've had to go through to get to this place. And so it's that cycle of life and the contribution of the pain to how you then, like you said, leverage that back out into make it into a beautiful thing. What happens because of that pain?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do get emails and I do get tweets and things like that. And people are saying thank you just because of my work with my podcast, which, I have the Food Heals podcast, and then also my work on my website, Holistic Voice. And people say, oh, I want to hear more. Oh, this really helped me. And like that is so gratifying to me because I know that my mission is important and I know that it's helping people. So it's just like you said.
So tell everyone all the links for Allison's show, her documentary, and her website will be on the show notes page at fittolove.tv. But tell everybody where else you can find everything.
Sure.
So Food Heals.
Yeah. Food Heals. You can watch the trailer at foodheals.tv. I have Holistic Voice, where I share stories of people that have healed themselves without drug, surgery, or chemotherapy. Not saying those things are bad. It's just an alternative way or a complementary way of things you can do. And then I have the Food Heals podcast, which our website is foodhealsnation.com. And I'm all over social media. You can follow us at Food Heals Nation. You can follow us at Holistic Voice. You can follow us at Food Heals Film on every single platform.
So come on over to fittolove.tv and you'll have a link to all of them and figure out which one is the best, if not all of them, for you to click on so that you can get more information about watching the documentary Food Heals when it comes out, when it's done, and to listen to Allison's show. She and her co-host are hilarious.
Thank you.
I can't wait to be on your show too.
Yes, we're going to have you on. But I can't wait to have you on. I'm so excited.
It'll be really fun to be in the studio, but we're going to have you back because now that we've covered all this stuff about going more plant-based diets and to wellness and to juice cleanses, we are going to talk about a juice cleanse. So we're going to have Allison back. So make sure to watch fittolove.tv and figure out when Allison's coming back on, and you'll see her show. It'll be on another Wellness Wednesday. Allison, thank you so much. I'm sure that this story is not necessarily the funnest thing to repeat, but even with all the work, but I do really appreciate that it's something that you're willing to share because it is going to change lives.
Thank you, JJ. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly video casts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fittolove.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT, the number 2, LOVE.TV. Have a fit and fabulous day.